What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Tank Rise post-game show. The Blazers today, they tanked, Eric. They tanked, all right? They lost to the Knicks, 110-93. April Fools, nope, they won. I just got to get the right graphic up. Thank you guys for tuning in for a late post-game show. I've seen you guys hanging around in chat. We appreciate that. The Blazers win. Denny Avdija records another 30-point triple-double, second of the season. And we got a post-game show for you. All right? Unfortunately, I don't have any April Fool's things planned, so I guess my April Fool's thing is I'm wearing a cutoff for the first 5 minutes of the show, and then Eric's going to solo stream, and then I'll be back wearing normal clothes. But yeah, what's going on, Eric? How's your 1st of April treating you?
Someone without an April Fool's joke planned would say that they don't have one planned.
Dude, I legitimately don't. Don't. I had plans. And I'm going to have to table them for next year. I did not have time to do the couple of sponsorships, commercials that I was going to do. But next year. I literally had something on my calendar from the start of the season to do something for this and didn't have time. But listen, we're going to enjoy this stream. We're going to talk about another Blazers win, Eric. Well, it's their first one in a while, but they beat the Hawks 127-113. And is that a good thing? No, I don't know. But Shaedon Sharpe looks good. Denny Avdija looks good.
Do you really not know?
I don't know. I mean, this team wants to get.
That's not how you really feel.
This team wants to get the 12th seed, right? So this win goes a long way to getting that 12th seed. So, listen. I love Denny Avdija triple doubles. All right. I will always enjoy a Denny Avdija triple double. I will always enjoy Denny Avdija dominance. I will always enjoy a Shaedon Sharpe 30 piece as well. Those two guys playing well. No Simons, no Scoot. Banton gets to start at point guard. What's funny was it's like Banton starting at point guard. It's like they're almost there. They're almost tanking, but you still got Denny Avdija. And if they could play 4 G League guys next to Denny Avdija right now, and I still wouldn't call them fully tanking because that's how good Denny Avdija is playing. It's how I really feel.
I mean, you've said this multiple times. If we want to truly tank, we have to sit Denny.
You have to sit Denny, man. Shout out to Mono Pome with a $3.50 donation. Says Denny is a future superstar in the making. Looked like a superstar tonight. Played like a superstar tonight. Was phenomenal tonight, man. I mean, he was the best player on the floor. And there's been so many games lately where we can say that for both teams. He's the best player on the floor. Played really, really well. So we're going to have that breakdown. We're going to talk about the Blazers offense as a whole because after scoring 93 points against the Knicks, they drop 127 on the Atlanta Hawks. And this Hawks team is definitely a lot worse than the Knicks. This Hawks team kind of sucks. They fall to 35-39. They're kind of just waiting for the play-in because they're just in by default right now. But, yeah. I listen, I'll be honest before I bow out for some more Eric solo stream because I know you guys love that. I'll be honest, not happy that they won. I'm happy with the individual performances from Sharpe and from Avdija. It's nice to see this team score 127 points. 8 for 10 from Tamani is great, right? Klingon makes another 3 and has 5 assists. There's some good individual things from this game, for sure. But the result, I'm not happy with. I want 8th best lottery odds. I want the Blazers to be 13th in the West, not 12th. So, not happy about that, but happy about the individual performances. That's how I feel about this game. Eric, I'll hear from you, and then I'll get out of here.
Well, you said Atlanta was kind of locked into that play-in, which is true, but they are tied for 7th. So they are fighting, and they're only 2 games ahead of 8. So they are fighting for home court and only having to win 1 game versus falling into that 9-10 game. So they do have something to play for.
Yeah, true. I mean, the Blazers are only 3.5 games back without the tiebreaker against the Kings, right? No, they're not making the play-in. It's over. It legitimately is over.
I don't know. Someone did the math in chat earlier.
Yeah.
They said if the Suns lose 4 out of their next 6, and the Kings lose 4 out of their next 7, and the Blazers win their final 6 games, the Blazers are in the play-in.
Yeah, a miracle. A miracle, man. Yeah, let's make a miraculous run to that 10th seed. I don't know. I'm going to go. I'm going to come back. I'm not going to be sarcastic. I feel very sarcastic right now, I'm not going to lie. I feel very sarcastic. I just kind of want to troll. You know, it's April Fool's Day. The Blazers, in my opinion, should be tanking. They're not tanking. The Hawks suck, right? But I'll come back a little less sarcastic and break this thing down. But Eric, the floor is yours, man. The floor is yours. You did a good job solo streaming the other day, so you get more of an opportunity. Do you see that? Look at that, chat. A player performs well. A young player, because Eric's young. Okay, young player performs well. You give them more of a leash. You give them more opportunity, and that's what I'm doing right now for the young Eric Brandt.
Blaze the Nugs wants you to come back as sarcastic as possible.
We'll see. We'll see. You guys never know what I have in store for you. So anyway, I'm out of here. I'll be back. I'll be back though.
See you in a little bit.
Goodbye.
All right, what's up, everyone? Happy to have you all here. He's not gonna come back with less sleeves. He's gonna come back with more sleeves. Sorry to say that. Rytex wants to talk about. Can we please talk about how they never run things for Denny? It's like he needs to do everything by himself. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that all year. We don't really. I don't think we really do a great job of running stuff. We do still tend to count on freelance way too much. So I agree with you. I don't think we do a good job of getting sharp opportunities. I mean, just think of how good those two in particular would do getting the ball off a curl screen and around the free throw line. I think that would be pretty much unstoppable for either of those guys. We don't really do it. Little X Wolf says, at this point, I think winning is setting up for next year's confidence. Dude, all right, no issue if you think that way. But they've already done enough winning to set up their confidence next year. So if they lose all their confidence because they lost in Atlanta late in the season when we sat like 5 people, including both of our point guards, like that's not, I don't think that does anything. Yes, it's a cool for them to go into Atlanta and get a win, but I don't think this matters at all next year, like winning any of these remaining games. There's 6 games left. They could go 0-6 or 6-0, and I don't think it affects how they are next year. Now, it might affect how the front office views this team. Oh, yeah, another 7-game win streak or whatever ends up being at the end of the year. Like, we're going to... yeah. So, I don't think that matters at all. John Nash says, I hope Danny rubs off on Sharp. Yeah, his aggression. We need that aggression. And Danny talked about the young guys after last game, about how they've been progressing, and he sees a lot of that in practice and just being around them. So hopefully he was onto something there, and it's really what's happening. Let's see, what else you guys want to talk about? Super Hachimitsu says, I'd see Danny try to put on some muscle this offseason with how much bumping he does. It would do his longevity some good. I mean, he's a pretty big guy. I don't know. It's hard to just do that the entire game as we've seen towards the end of games. All right, Blazing Nug says you can't really make a good faith argument that what the Blazers front office or what the Blazers front office currently doing makes any sense. Yeah, but this is the issue. Think they I don't think they know what they're doing. So it might make sense to them, but like they don't even know what they're doing, right? So um like they finally agree that this should be a building year, a rebuild year. They resisted using that word and talking about the rebuild. And then they started winning some games and got some good fan reaction, good fan viewership on their games. And so then they're like, oh, wow, this is cool. Let's try to win, and let's go for the play in and all that kind of stuff. So it really feels like they're just kind of winging it and they don't really have a plan. And that's been pretty evident since Cronin took over, at least. It's just a case where I don't think you can make it make sense when they don't even know how to make sense themselves, if that makes sense. Like they don't understand what's best long term, and this isn't exclusive to Portland. There's lots of teams that find some relatively small success, or maybe even a little bit larger success than what Portland's had. Look at the Kings a couple of years ago uh, when they step up into the 3 seed after, what was it, 16 years or something like that, where they didn't make the playoffs. And they're so desperate to make the playoffs that they basically sell out just to make the playoffs. And then they're not as good the following year. And then this year completely fall off. Might still make the play in, but I mean, is that really is the play in? Like 10 out of the 15 teams make the play in. So if that's your goal, like if that's the Blazers' goal to make the play in, yes, this year might have been cool because that was very high, like best possible outcome for this team. Making the play in was probably the ceiling of this team if everything broke right. So yeah, but that can't be your end goal, and you can achieve that goal along the way if you are still setting up your long-term goal for success. And teams like the Pelicans did this when they traded for CJ and made the playoffs that one year. It's like these teams just want to get into the playoffs or the play-in now, and it makes teams that should be rebuilding teams buyers or whatever, or makes them not sell off pieces that they should have at trade deadlines or things like that. And so unfortunately, yeah, the short-sighted stuff is also like, okay, making the play-in, obviously a cool accomplishment for a team that was projected to win like 21, 22 games going into the season. And so, I mean, that would be an accomplishment. Don't get me wrong. That's like a huge accomplishment for this team if it happened, which it still isn't. Don't get me wrong. But if you like do everything to just make the play-in, that doesn't necessarily make things better. And also from an ownership perspective, unless you are the 9th seed, you don't get a home playoff game. So you get what, 1, maybe 2. If you make the playoffs, I guess you would get a home game, but you'd have to win 2 road games as the 10th seed just to get a couple home games in the playoffs. So even if you make the play-in, it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. So, but yeah, it's just I don't know. I heard this explained in a way that kind of made sense to me. Someone was talking about NFL teams that don't have a franchise quarterback but are good teams and like always make the playoffs. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Like they always like Mike Tomlin has never had a below 500 record since he took over, and they're always like in the mix for the playoffs, but you're not winning a Super Bowl without a franchise quarterback or one like that. So um, it's still a case where the Blazers could be relatively okay with this lineup. We could be fine. Like we could be a fringe 6 seed / play-in team for sure moving forward with this lineup, building upon the little successes we've had this year. And so that's it almost seems like that's now okay or whatever. And it felt like that was okay for a decade with Dame. It felt like they never really fully went for it with him. Never really were willing to pay or do what it takes. So the problem is, like, I don't know. I mean, yes, there's an outlier with the Detroit Pistons in 2004. But like if you're planning on your outlier being the one exception, like you're gonna have a really tough time. So I just I have a hard time wondering if like how they outside of just natural growth and team chemistry and things like that, how do you take that jump into being a fringe playoff team into an upper seed home court team or a true contender? So hopefully that step is still to come. But given Portland's history for a long time now, I mean, they tried to build it the right way, 2006, 2007, through the draft. I mean, they had 3 high draft picks. Everyone thought it was going to be a really good team for a decade. But since that all fell apart with injuries and stuff like that, it just seems like they haven't been willing to truly go for anything more than, okay, it's all right to just make the playoffs and be fine with that. So, yeah, it's it, and I don't mind them not taking, like, whatever. Like they decided at some point this year that they weren't going to just flat out tank like they had the previous years, and I know a lot of you like that, and that's totally fine. Like I said, I felt like, and I'm not alone in saying this. Like even the Portland media that doesn't like to ever say this or admit this, like all of them were saying over the last couple of days after we lost to New York, it's time to pull the plug. Like it's time to really hunker down, and it's okay to lose out now and all that kind of stuff. And I guess they tried to do that by sitting both Scoot and Anthony in this game, but it's just, I don't know. Hopefully Joe can pull something off this offseason. And I said I would talk about this. It's a little, before I get to that, Little X Wolf says, how do you tank? Never walked on court myself looking to lose. The players will never tank. They're going to play hard. That's why you've got to play worse players. That's how you tank. So you don't play Denny Avdia. Yeah. Um, yeah. So you don't trade him. Or you don't play him. Sorry. Um, yeah. You you play those Banton Reith lineups more. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, yeah. Trevor Williams says if our hope is Cronin, then that would be a huge red flag. I get that too. Like, obviously, Tori and I have been very anti-Cronin on this show. There's no denying that. I'm just saying, like, we got to hope he pulls out some sort of Denny level trade again to take that next step, and maybe he can pull it off. Kenny D says the question I have is if you play those bad lineups, what kind of message is it sending to the young players? Dude, no one cares. There were 7 games left in the season going into tonight. Like, I get it. Most of the season, like what the Blazers did a few years, the last few years, like, I get that. If you want to argue that would have been detrimental to the growth of this team this year, Avery talked about it like before or in his exit interview that he didn't want to do that crap this year. Like Scoot and Sharp and those guys, like, we shouldn't. I didn't want to do that this year. I wanted them to get playing time and do that. But like, they did that. They got their playing time. They showed their improvement. They showed they can win some games and be a competent team at times. So that's when you cut it off. We're past the point where any of that stuff matters, in my opinion. Last few games of the season, once we lost to New York, it was Calabro put this perfectly. Our own announcer, one of the most optimistic, Blazer friendly, always spin it in a positive direction people, said the loss to the Knicks meant our play-in dreams were not mathematically eliminated, but realistically eliminated. And if he's saying that, I mean, dude, it's time to pull the plug, in my opinion. And with 7 games left going to tonight, there's no way you can convince me that those games matter. And as Elizabeth Allen keeps mentioning in chat, they did a questionnaire 2 seasons ago with a bunch of young guys, and pretty much every single young guy agreed that it did not matter at all, like developing a losing culture or whatever like that. And so yeah. Trevin says he found the Gray Hughes bet. What exactly was it? Is it 35 or less I win and 36 he wins, or is it 34 and less I win and 30? Okay. So if they win 35 games, I win. 36 Gray wins. All right. He was one off, so it like kind of confused me. Yeah. I mean, I'd already thought I was going to lose the bet, so if I win at this point, it's like house money, so whatever. The stupid Atlanta Hawks, I also have a bet that they would not be a top 8 seed. They do not deserve to be a top 8 seed, but and they look like garbage tonight, but yeah. Yeah, Blazing Nug says there have been many studies done that have disproved the idea that tanking in pro sports has a long-term negative effect for a team. Drafting poorly and making bad acquisitions does. Tanking doesn't. Yep. And also, I would throw in having a bad coach. Like, if you're learning bad habits or not being held accountable, and then you get into a bad system or a bad situation, that could have a long-term effect on you as well. Um, so um, what's up, Crime Stopper? How you doing, man? Um, Matt Cardell says, I think we should interview the Michael Jordans, Kobe, Dames, what they think about tanking instead of a bunch of nobodies. Dude, those guys are winners. Like you don't you don't tank if you have a good team. Like Jordan's not tanking because he's not on a team that's rebuilding. Like I don't know. Yeah. Losers don't care about losing. Dude, it okay. Let me let me tell you this, Matt. Okay. If I was signed to the Portland Trailblazers, you guys know me, right? I I care more about winning like a championship, maybe not like a meaningless game against the Atlanta Hawks. But you guys know I've I've cried on this show before. Like you guys know how much the Blazers mean to me. I've said it many times outside of my family and kids being born and wedding and all that kind of stuff. Like that would be the greatest day of my life outside of that if the Blazers ever win a championship. I when I play like when I play rec, like it hurts when we lose, you know. Uh, I, I I care about winning all the time. Uh, you put me on the Blazers, and like I'm not just because I care about winning doesn't mean that we end up winning games. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, like you don't just win because you want to win. You win because you're really freaking good, and those guys are really good. So not only did they have the drive, but they also could make them win, right? So if we got if we had better players and got like a Cooper Flagg, losing the last 6 games of this season would not matter one bit because we'd have a player that would help us win more games in the future, right? So like, uh, yeah, I don't understand that. Like, it's not a loser mentality. It's just like these games don't matter at all. So yeah, that's not it. Okay, you guys are confusing the players not wanting to lose with a team tanking. The the players do not lose because they're okay with losing and want to get a better player. They don't want to lose. That's fine. Like no one on the team is saying, "Oh, we need to lose so we have a 2% chance more of Cooper Flagg." No one on the team cares about that crap. Like I don't understand what you're trying to say. Like no one on the team cares. That's why you have to somehow prevent them from from winning games like this. So it like I don't get it. And like obviously Chauncey doesn't care about losing right now either because he's trying to coach for his job or another opportunity after this one that he could say like this was just a crappy situation that they wanted to lose. I do not get why you guys, some of you do not get that. Like I don't understand. Like I don't know how many different ways we have to explain that. Yeah, and as Meet That Bozo points out, like Jordan went through years and years of losing, like especially like if you're talking about first round of the playoffs, like he took his lumps more than almost any other superstar, And yeah, uh, so like, did he develop a losing attitude? No, he overcame that and did that. Like I don't understand, man. Yeah, Detroit. Thank you, Henry. Detroit lost 29 games in a row last year, and are what, the fifth seed right now. Like, yeah, you add a couple good players, you have some improvement, you get better coaching, and look. Arbel says Chauncey matches wins in a season today. His record, yeah. Bouquet said Casey Holdahl asked Shaden about the plan, and Shaden basically laughed in his face. What do you mean? Like he laughed like it was unrealistic at this point, or what? Yeah, like the Kings, okay? Let's look at the Kings, all right? So you say, well, tanking didn't work for them. Yeah, because they drafted Jimmer Fredette and Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic and crap like that. You think if they would have drafted Luka Doncic at 2 in that draft, that they wouldn't have made the playoffs? Like, it'd been a really freaking good team by now? Like what are we talking about? Like, I, I don't get it, man. And I do want to talk about this. Hopefully Tori's listening right now still, but so Blaze and Nugs had something that he had seen from, I think it was Reddit or something, or maybe it was Blazers Edge. He said that two posters on there kept saying a theory that like it was true. Tori will be back in a few minutes. So he's saying that these guys are certain that the Blazers don't care about winning or don't care about losing or tanking right now because they have a trade lined up with Jeremy using that pick, so it doesn't really matter. And if they get a higher pick, it would be harder for them to trade it or do this trade that they might have lined up. Okay. And Blaze and Nugs even says, I doubt it's true. Just interesting to hear it from longtime posters on those sites. And yeah, so the idea that okay, so let's just say they had a trade lined up. Let's just play this out. Okay. First of all, as I'll tell you guys in a minute, I've heard that the complete opposite of this, and I'll explain that in a minute. But let's just say, for example, the Blazers do have a trade lined up, and they don't really care what pick they get because they're probably going to trade it if it's like 7 to 12 or whatever. Okay. So basically, you're saying that they're so desperate to get off of Jeremy's contract using that pick that they don't want a chance or a greater chance for it to move into the top 4 or, heaven forbid, a number 1 pick and get Cooper Flagg and completely change the direction of this franchise. They would rather the pick suck or be worse so that they can get rid of Jeremy. What? What? If you just think about this stuff, it does not make any sense. Which is probably why they're probably why it's going to end up being true, right? Because it doesn't make sense, and we just talked about that. Like, why would you? It, wouldn't you at least want the pick to be better so that you could potentially move up into the top 4 and get a good player? And then if it didn't, then you still trade the pick. So what does it matter? Like, why would you care, or why would you care about winning so that the pick looks better if you traded like the 11th pick versus trading the 8th pick? That, huh? What is this theory? That makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Man, I uh, what? I'll just say this right now. If I find out that has any truth to it, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could be a Blazer fan much longer until this front office is gone. But it's yeah, like people say, anything is possible. Blazer Duck says that was funny. Is it's so dumb that Cronin might actually do it? Yeah, dude, man. Yeah, don't. If you're trying to get off Jeremy, wouldn't like the 7th or 8th pick be better? Like you could get a better player, or do what like Taylor Packer is saying, and maybe you upgrade Jeremy using a higher pick. Wow. The more it's discussed, the more likely it is, says David. Maybe. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I have something to say after this, but I want to wait for Tori to get back to say it, or if he's listening, maybe he can mention in chat that he's listening right now so he hears it. But yeah. Eric also says, yeah, like what team is going to decline because the pick is too high? Yeah. Matt says he thinks he hears him breathing. He's taking a bubble bath, says Brendan. Yeah, maybe. He had a tough game tonight, so. David asks, is the rest of the draft cheeks behind Cooper? No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of good players in this draft. I like this draft. All I have to say, I like every draft though. Like I always find guys. But this draft is definitely thought of as better than last year, even if you just knock off the fact that Cooper Flagg is better than anyone in last year's draft. But yeah, this draft is definitely better. Eric, hot take by Rytex. It says Cooper Flagg is not the best player that's going to come out from this draft. You never know. But I don't know. I've actually been told that by 4 different people tonight. You're the 5th. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, you never know. But like, have you people not watched Cooper Flagg play? Like, he's 18 years old, just turned 18 in December, I think. Like, he's doing it at the highest level that any freshman has ever done it. Now, I mean, you can't go back that far because there used to be a time where freshmen didn't play. But if you don't think Cooper Flagg He's excelled at every level he's ever played at. Like I don't get it, man. People are wilding while you're gone, Tori.
They always do, man. They always do. What's funny is when you were solo streaming a couple days ago and I was at dinner, I just queued up the stream for 10 seconds, put it up to my ear, and all I heard you say is "get the F out of here with that," and it was about somebody saying Cooper Flagg plays a lackadaisical defense. And I was like, anybody that doubts Cooper Flagg is just having a hot take just to have a hot take. He could not have had a better freshman season and lived up to expectations any more than he did. He's led that team to the Final Four. He's player of the year. They are the favorites to win it all. Like, how could he have done any better? Basically, you went into it. If you don't have Cooper Flagg number one on your board, or you aren't super high on Cooper Flagg or this or that, if you have a hot take about him, it's almost like you went into this season wanting to have a hot take about him, wanting to not have him number one, because there's literally nothing else he could have done to prove that he's the number one player in this class than what he did this year. You go on Tankathon and you look at his strengths and weaknesses, and literally every single thing is a strength. There's literally no statistical weaknesses. So the Cooper Flagg stuff drives me crazy. I don't even want to argue with those people, Eric. You know, I just got back from my lavender bubble bath, okay? I feel very refreshed, you know? I smell like a flower. So I needed something soothing, right? I needed something soothing, so I'm back.
The only thing you could criticize Cooper for was maybe his jump shot earlier in the season. But he got that up to 37.4%.
He literally shot a better three ball than Ace Bailey. So what more do you want from him? Like,
his free throws 83.4%, so you know it's legit. Like,
which is like 14% better than
the only thing you could have criticized him on. He's like done, and he's a self-creator. He's big, like he plays defense. Like there's nothing. Like if he ends up busting, there is nothing that would have like led you to believe, oh, told you, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
like it's like a complete, like something would have to happen to him, like a Markelle Fultz type, just complete demolishing of his mental fragileness or something, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to say he's not going to be the best he's not going to be the best out of the draft, then you must be saying that about every single player. If he's not going to be the best out of the draft, then who is? Who do you think is then? I don't understand that argument. Anyway, so I heard through the grapevine that you have something you want to say to me, but also I want to talk about this Reddit conspiracy theory. So I don't know which one you want to start with.
Go ahead and start, because mine will lead. Like after you say your theory, I'll lead into this. Yeah. Can you just
say the theory again?
The theory is that the Blazers have basically a deal lined up already, using their pick and Jeremy Grant, and that's why they don't care about tanking this year, because it doesn't matter. Like if their pick is worse, it ends up looking like a better trade. So if they end up moving up or whatever, or getting like the 7th pick versus the 10th pick, it looks worse of a trade or something. I don't know.
And people are using that theory to defend the front office?
They're just saying that that's why the Blazers aren't tanking right now, or like why it doesn't make sense how they tanked perfectly the last couple of years but aren't doing it this year once they were basically realistically eliminated. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but surely the people that believe in that theory, when they bring it up, it's to criticize the front office, right? Is this the first time Rip City Reddit has ever criticized the front office? Is that what this theory is? Because I don't see how you could have that theory and not think this front office is completely incompetent.
Yeah.
Like that. That's insane. That's so asinine. That's so asinine on so many levels. This was Blazers Edge. What, a Blazers Edge article or comment section? Like what?
He said it was like two longtime commenters on there that are known on there. Yeah.
Okay, let's say that's true. All right. You know what it proves? They care way more about optics than anything else, and it, I think, should make everybody who believes the front office's side of things when it comes to Dame and trying to trade the third pick, it should make everybody question that if they truly believe that this front office and organization cares that much about optics that they would rather get a worse pick so that a trade looks better when they have to offload Jeremy Grant because they didn't trade him soon enough when they could have gotten something back for him. Like, that is so insane on so many levels. And the thing is, I can't even sit here and say with 100% certainty that it's false because you guys know us. We've been talking about how this front office cares too much about optics. They have PR people that will reach out to writers, man. Like, I've heard some wild stuff, okay, about PR and this organization. And, I mean, it's a billion-dollar corporation. Of course, they're going to care about their image, but you should not be rooting for a worse pick so that a trade that you have to make looks better. And the only reason you have to make this trade is because, for whatever freaking reason, you held out for 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant instead of taking 1 first-round pick back with assets on top of that last offseason, and now he's a negative contract, so you can't even get a first-round pick back. So your only option to move him, when he's the 3rd best forward on this team, the only option to move him is to package him with an asset. And with the Blazers caring about optics, especially the optics of maybe selling him at a negative value and attaching an asset just to get rid of him, the Blazers do not want to do that because they could have traded him for value before and because this freaking organization signed Jeremy Grant to that massive contract, right? So they don't want to attach an asset to him just to get rid of his contract. It looks really, really, really bad if they do that. The best way out of it is to attach an asset that is good enough that maybe you can get something back, and then you can spin it as Jeremy wasn't a negative value. We actually got something back for him. You know, we only gave up the 11th pick, right? And we got back, I don't know. Who knows what they would get back in that trade, right? But if you get something back, you can spin it as Jeremy wasn't a negative value. He was actually, his contract was very valuable to facilitate this move, and we got a player that we really like for him. That's why that contract was actually a good contract to sign him to, and that's why we held on to him, right? The way to do that is maybe trading the 11th or 10th overall pick, and if they have a trade lined up, the optics are even better if that pick is a little bit worse. Because then you're not giving up as much, and it's easier to spin Jeremy as not a negative value, as a positive value. So this conspiracy theory matches up with that. That's why I can't sit here and say it's 100% false. Right? Because it kind of feels like the Blazery thing where they got their hand caught in the cookie jar with Jeremy Grant. They gave him too many freaking cookies. You know, 160 million freaking cookies over 5 years. Damn, he's gonna be 400 pounds by the end of this contract. They gave him too many freaking cookies. All right, no team wants to give him that many freaking cookies. So, how do you get rid of him without it looking bad? I think that might be the number one question this front office and ownership group, Burt Cold, whoever, is thinking about this offseason. And that conspiracy theory, I feel like, aligns with that, right?
Are you done?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. No, it's good. So, with all that being said, Tori, the thing I needed to tell you is that I heard the exact opposite. I heard that Cronin loves the draft, obviously, that he does not want to trade our pick this year, that he is pretty set in stone on not doing it or not trading it this year because he believes this will be our last lottery pick for a while, and he does not want to trade that. He wants to try to get one more lottery pick added to the mix before they start making the playoffs next year. And then I heard what goes along with that is that they are not looking to be sellers this offseason. They're looking to be buyers and add to what they have. And now I don't know if that means they're not going to trade any veterans as part of that or not, or whether they think some veterans are addition by subtraction or help the buying process. But I just heard keeping the pick and buying through trades, not selling.
So, you know what's funny is, like, keeping the pick is the right decision. It's one of those things where it's the right decision with the worst possible logic to justify it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy here. There's a political analogy that I'm not going to use where, like, yeah, that's a good decision, but holy crap, that logic behind that is insane. At least it's the right decision, but what? At least as far as keeping the pick. Because there's no way they should trade the pick. You're in rebuild mode. You're not out of freaking rebuild mode. You're battling for the 12th seed. You're not out of rebuild mode, man. And you had a really good conversation earlier in the stream about that. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here.
It's okay. It's okay.
The part about wanting to be buyers, this is a horrible time to buy, in my opinion. I think this is the worst possible time for them to buy.
It depends on what they're buying, but yeah.
What are you going to buy, though, Eric? You already got a bunch of above average to good NBA players, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like right
You're
now,
not going to win a championship with 10 good players. Okay? You already have a lot. So what are you going to do? You're going to trade for more good above average NBA players? Or otherwise you have to trade for a star. What star out there fits this young core going forward and is available for a package that makes sense? Right? Who? I actually have a name in mind that I think the Blazers are going to trade for. Or try and trade for. And I think it's a terrible decision. We'll talk about that name in like 5 minutes. But the notion that they want to be buyers is insane because they don't have their number one guy set in stone or even close to being set in stone. And it's like you're prematurely ending the rebuild because oh my goodness, we got a 12th seed. We have 33 wins right now. We're 33 and 43. We're ready. Basically, you just got impatient with the rebuild that you literally created, literally forced Dame out by drafting his replacement and going into rebuild mode because you couldn't build a good enough team around Dame, who is a top 75 player of all time, by the way. But now, literally 2 years later, 2 off seasons later, now you're ready to buy because you're ready to be a playoff team again, and you don't have a player as close to as good as Damian Lillard was. That is so twisted, and that was my biggest fear of the rebuild. I'll phrase it this way, okay? I'm a big fan of 5 teams, okay? 2 of those 5 teams, I have never once, not a single year, seen that team be a legitimate contender. The Mariners are one of them. The Blazers are the other team. I started watching sports in like 2005. This is 20 freaking years. I've never seen this team be a legitimate contender. People might say, oh, they made the Western Conference Finals. Oh, yeah, and then they lost to a super depleted Warriors team in 4 games. They got swept. Right? Yay. That's the...
They had the lead every game. Every game.
Yeah, we blew 4, or 3 big leads. Yay. That's the pinnacle of my Blazers fandom after 20 years, okay? I want that to change. And it's not going to change right now. It's not going to change next year. It's not going to change the year after. I want this team to do everything it can to get to the point where I can finally say, going into this year, yeah, I think we're contenders. And it actually be right. That's all I want out of this rebuild. That should be the only goal. The only goal. But I don't feel like the Blazers have their sights set on that. I feel like it's, man, we're almost back to the playoffs. If we can just get back to the playoffs, sell ticket revenue in the playoffs, our fans will start showing up to games again. We're going to make more money. And then, yeah, we'll get to the playoffs. And then we just got to figure out how to go from playoffs to contention. It's basically, let's just get to the playoffs and then figure it out later. But here's the problem when it comes to the rebuild. They don't have enough draft capital to do that. Because in order to get to being a legitimate playoff team next year, they're going to have to trade for a really, really good player. And trading for a really, really good player is going to cost them basically the rest of their draft capital. Or they're going to give up on Sharp or Scoot. And basically it's going to be, yeah, we're giving up on our best chance at a star that could maybe lead this team. Most likely for a guy that's not a good enough number one player on a playoff team. Like, the name that is the perfect example, and this is the name that I think the Blazers will go after, Eric. Can you guess it? I'll give you a guess. Chat can guess it as well.
Well, some people in chat said Sabonis.
Sabonis is that name, yes.
Yeah.
Sabonis is that name. Sabonis is proving right now, Sabonis is the number one player on the Kings. The Kings are barely a play-in team. Sabonis will never be a number one player on a top 4 team in a conference. Sabonis will never be the number one player on a contender. But let's say you trade Scoot and Klingon and maybe your pick this year. Or maybe it's the 2029 best of Milwaukee, Boston, and Portland for Sabonis. Because that's probably around what it would take. Okay? Then what? You're literally stuck in mediocrity, never contending. Because Sabonis is not a good enough number one on a contending team. You gave up on whatever upside Scoot has left. And now basically it's, oh man, if Shane Sharp doesn't become the next Kobe, we're not going to contend. Why would you sell out for that if your goal is to contend one day? If the Blazers made that type of trade, that proves that they have no interest in building a real contender. They're just interested in getting back where they were when they had Dame. And that is disgusting to me. It's basically more years of me never seeing this team contend. But fans would love it. It's a bonus. It's a really good player. We need offense. Fans would eat it up.
Just to be clear, are you just speculating or is this based off of something?
I'm speculating. It's gut feeling. Like the name.
I just wanted to make sure.
The position. They need offense. They have all these good defenders, right? He's been really, really good this year. The Kings might blow it up. Or they might trade Sabonis. He might want out.
Yeah.
It's the perfect trade for this organization to make, to say, we're serious about winning now. He's young enough to fit our core. And then be stuck in mediocrity for years. And then literally what would happen is the Blazers, in my opinion, this is what would happen. Okay, 2029, they maybe have won one playoff series but have never contended, kind of like the Dame era. And then we're going to be sitting there in 2029 like, okay, what's next? Like Sharp's entering his prime. He's maybe a, Zach LaVine type. Because you look at the freaking Kings. They have DeMar DeRozan. They have Zach LaVine. And they have Sabonis. And they're painfully mid. So it's like, okay, Sharp's is Zach LaVine type, borderline all-star. And we're not going to have... we'll have maybe our own picks going forward if we're lucky. Maybe the worst 2029 first between us, Milwaukee, Boston. But basically, okay, maybe we have our own picks. It's like, can we get a good enough number one to contend with those picks because Sabonis isn't good enough number one? And we'd be sitting there like, man, We are a 6th seed, a 7th seed, but we don't have enough assets to take that jump. And what does that remind you of? When does that remind you of?
I mean, it reminds me of several teams. A couple of them I already mentioned.
Yeah, but this is literally... Yeah, it's the Dame era. It's the Dame era with probably a worse team. Like, so it's just not the right move, man. You gotta have some patience. You gotta rebuild the right way. But this organization didn't even last 2 years into the post-Dame era before they've already been like, yeah, we're ready to stop rebuilding. They couldn't even make it 2 years, Eric.
They couldn't even make one season after they... Like, it'll be the very next offseason after he finally admitted it was a rebuild.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So,
yeah.
People like Tori, why are you so negative about the direction of this team? I just want to see this team contend someday. That's all I care about. We've done everything else. We've seen everything else. The one thing I haven't seen is this team actually legitimately contend. That's what I care about. And if you want to disagree with me on, maybe you think trading for a Sabonis would put this team on the path to contention, okay, fine. Disagree with me on that. I don't understand the logic, but okay, you can disagree with me on that. But at the end of the day, I just want to see this team contend, man. And the little stuff and like trying to make a play-in and try to make the playoffs next year. It's like, okay, cool, great, whatever. But how are we going to get to contention? That's all I care about. How are we getting to contention? What is our plan? You take steps along the way in that plan. You make a play-in. You get a 6 seed. Then hopefully you get a 1 seed at some point. And hopefully you're a contender at some point. You walk the staircase up. But it's almost like they're willingly choosing a staircase that only goes halfway up the mountain. And then you're stuck at the bottom of a cliff staring up with no way to get up it.
Yeah. So why does your mind, when you... Okay, so I understand, like, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed with the Sabonis thing, but why does your mind go to them giving up Klingon and Scoot for Sabonis and not something else?
Why wouldn't you give up Klingon if you're trading for Sabonis? You're trading for a center.
Because you want a defensive center.
You're going to play Sabonis at the 4?
I don't know.
And you're going to contend?
Who knows? Who knows with them?
Sabonis at the 4, we've seen that experiment before with a rim-protecting center that could also shoot threes, and guess what? It didn't work.
Yeah.
We saw that in Indiana. So, what, you're trying to be the 2020 Indiana Pacers? That's the goal of the rebuild?
I was just thinking just having Klingon as your backup center or something. I don't know.
He's a better asset in that trade going outwards than he is as a backup center.
Yeah.
Like, so why'd you draft him at 7 then?
What if... Okay, tying this back to that other theory, what if that's what if it's Grant and picks for Sabonis, basically?
You're going all in on Sabonis with all your picks?
I don't know if you're giving up all your picks. I don't know what the price tag would be.
Wouldn't it be nice to have an extra pick and then salary that teams wouldn't scoff at in a Sabonis trade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Ayton should be the guy going out. You know what I mean? Expiring contract center if you're just trading purely picks for Sabonis. But he's going to cost like 3-4 picks. We don't have picks. We don't even have our 2026 first, 2027 first. So what? You're trading 2029, 2020, 2031, and 2033? You literally would have no more tradable firsts. Well, I guess you have 2 in 2029. So, like, maybe you'd be left with 1 tradable first. And it would be like the worst 2029 first. Why are you going all in with your picks on that?
I'm not doing that. I'm just asking the question.
It's too early. If they were to the point where they were a playoff team and they had these picks and it was like, this guy is the missing piece we think we can get to contention with, okay, sure, trade your future picks. But that's the thing is, like, you know, people might try and compare this to the Cavs trade for Donovan Mitchell, but They had Evan Mobley, who became a star. They had Darius Garland, who was already an all-star. Already made an all-star game. They had Jared Allen, who made an all-star game. Right? They already had the pieces in place to make the trade for Donovan Mitchell. The Blazers do not have the pieces in place yet to make a trade for like a Sabonis or a player like that. I mean, the only other guys that you could maybe see is like Trae Young or LaMelo Ball. No, thank you, man. We're literally back to the Dame era with a worse version of Dame.
Yeah.
That might be worse defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And questionable leader. Like, ugh.
For all the people who bring up Zion every time we talk about this, I just...
If you're buying low, if they're selling low, sure. But
yeah,
I don't think they're going to do that. That's the only reason why Zion made sense. Is because if he was healthy, I could see him with the right pieces around him being the number one player on a contender. And you could buy low on him. Neither of those things are the case for Sabonis. I see some people toss out Lauri Markkanen, especially Lauri freaking Markkanen.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you're going to be this year's version of the Atlanta Hawks? If you trade for Trae Young? Anyway, like, I'm passionate about this because I want to see this team contend as badly as I think anybody. Because I've never seen it. I'm passionate about it. So people, I know I sound worked up, right? I just want to see them contend. And it's just, I'm tired of seeing things with this team where it's like, yeah, I don't know if they're serious about that being their path. They want to play and they want to playoffs. That scares me, man. That legitimately scares me. That I said going into this rebuild, when they traded Dame, I'm sure you can find the stream. I said from the jump, like, okay, now it's time to rebuild. Let's be patient. Let's maximize this rebuild. Here's how we maximize the rebuild. And then let's build a contender out of this. We're going to go through some tough years, but it'll be for the better in the end. And hopefully we can build a better product than we had with Dame. I can all but guarantee you I said something very close to that when the Blazers traded Dame. Or when Dame asked out. That's always been what the plan should be. But now it's like, oh, we could have twice as good of odds as Cooper Flagg. Not good enough. We're not going to get him. Might as well just win meaningless games. Oh, having the 8th pick would be better than the 10th pick? No. This front office, maybe they want the pick to be worse so they could make a Jeremy Grant trade look better. It's like, what are we doing, dude? What are we doing? None of that makes sense.
Never mind.
What?
I was just thinking of different.
Don't we have better pieces to surround Trae Young with compared to the Hawks pieces? I don't know. Jalen Johnson this year was just as good as any Blazer this year. Dyson Daniels is at least Kamara level. The only reason you would think maybe the Blazers have better pieces right now is because you've been watching these guys all year and paying no attention to the Hawks. Like, the Hawks have some pieces. They're still not good. They just drafted Ricochet with the number 1 overall pick, and he's been playing pretty good second half of the year. Right? Like, a Kongwu's a okay starting center. You know what I mean? Like, they're still mid. They're still mid.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, chat, how do you feel about my opinions? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know if you hate them. Let me know if you love them. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. This isn't really a post-game show. This is more of like a state, I don't know, State of the Union probably isn't the right term, but it's more so just like general where this team is at. They should probably choose to lose games, try and get 8th best odds. Do you know how sick I would be if San Antonio had 8th best odds and Portland had 9th best odds because they tried to win these meaningless games and then San Antonio moved up to 1 and got Cooper Flagg?
But when the Blazers move up in 9th, they'll be like, told you, Tory.
I mean, listen, if ethical tanking really is a thing and we get luckier because of it, fine. It's about time we got some luck. But, you know, I don't know, man. Maybe Burt Cold would be sitting there like, damn, now I can't trade Jeremy Grant and get his contract off the books.
Now we have to add another high price salary and the number 1 pick. Remember that?
Another forward. How are we going to make all these forwards work, man? Yeah, another high-paid salary with a higher pick, so we don't want to move up.
Do you remember that from last draft where one Danny Meringue was trying to say that the Blazers were okay with not moving up in the lottery because they wanted to pay their draft pick less than it would with like the 3rd or 4th pick?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the speculation.
I mean, that wasn't speculation. They just flat out said it, but like,
I don't know.
But that's like,
was that Travis? I don't know who. Somebody said that. I don't know if it was him.
But yeah, it's
I think that was Travis. Like, if that's true, that's really, really bad.
And the thing is, though, like, that's exactly why we're so worried about this rebuild not going, like, not gonna be seen to full completion, right? Like, it's stuff like that. Like,
yeah. Like, listen, if they end up becoming a 6 seed, maybe they could find a miraculous path to contention, right? But it's just like, their intention should be to build a contender, and if they think the core they have right now with like just the 9th or 10th pick is good enough to contend one day, I think they are way too optimistic and not being realistic. Here's the thing though, Eric. What did I always say? The Blazers' best chance to get a number 1 player on a contender, if it's not already on this roster, and if they start being too good to draft them at the top of the draft, their best chance of getting that player is with the 2028 Milwaukee swap, the 2029 best of Boston, Portland, and Milwaukee, and the 2030 Milwaukee swap, right? That's their best chance. If you give up those assets for a player that's not good enough to be the number 1 player on a contending team, you are giving up the chance to get that player for somebody who's not that player. Just to be better sooner so that you can maybe lose in the first round. Like, just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, that's how I feel. Listen, if Denny Avdia wants to become a top 5 player in the NBA, like, all right, maybe we're fine.
If he wants to average 30, 15, and 10.
Yeah. Taylor, I do remember that. That conspiracy theory is so insane, but also possible. That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just the ownership group is a problem. Burt Cold is a problem. I think he has his hands way too deep in this. I think he has too much control. I think Cronin is the perfect GM for them to just kind of like, he'll listen to what they say. This is just my speculation, okay? He'll listen to what they say, and they can kind of meddle in things, and he's just going to put on a good face for the media. He's a nice guy. He's a great dude. And I'm not even saying that sarcastically, right? He seems like a great dude. People like him because of it. Very understandable, right? But when it comes to the job of being a GM, I don't think that's high on the priority list. But, you got this PR spin and this guy that, you can meddle, he'll listen, right? He didn't have any GM experience before this. It's not like he's looking for greener pastures or anything. At least I don't think. And it's the perfect setup for the ownership to just try and get back to the playoffs so they can start making more revenue off tickets without ever seriously having to push for contention and having at least a section of the fan base be completely fine with that. And listen, if that's all you want, okay, fine. Okay, fine. But I want more. I want this team to contend, man. I've always said it. I want to be doing post-game shows in June.
And Tori, you remember when I said, I forget what stream it was, but it was a recent stream when I went off about how if you wanted to do this right, keeping a lame duck coach that wants to win is probably the worst thing to do. Remember when I had that conversation?
Yeah.
So, and I said I would ask about Chauncey as well. Finally got somewhat of an answer on that.
Yeah.
And it seems like they just went into the season saying, let's just play out this year on your contract and let's just like not even talk about your job status right now. We'll just talk about it after the season and see what happens. So, which like I said, it was probably the worst thing you could do because then he's coaching to win and he's probably not even your long-term coach if you're thinking that way already. So,
yeah. I mean, you have no direction with your coach. You know, I mean, there's just them being directionless again. They won't even give their coach any hint to what their direction is with them. Right? Like, it's just, we'll figure it out later. That's the Blazers' motto, man. We'll figure it out later. Mm-hmm. We're ready to be a playoff team. We'll figure out the contention thing later.
Well, it's just like with trades, kicking the can down the road, you know? Like, trade deadline. We'll make a better move this summer. Like, just wait till the next offseason.
You know, right? Eric Bledsoe's expiring contract is a really good asset that we could use to make something happen. What are we going to make happen with it? What is our plan to make something happen with it? We don't freaking know. We're just going to figure it out later. Oh, look, it's dead money on the books. We didn't use it. It's literally just a negative part of the trade. You know, there's a lot like that. And I'm just tired of that attitude. It's lazy. It's lazy to me. Eric, that's a great question. Listen, like, maybe there's a trade out there that is the right trade, like a Denny trade, that they can pull a rabbit out of the hat and make work. Listen. If we think they pull off a trade like that, we will let you know. I defended the Denny trade as much as any move that this front office has ever made. I sat there in the preseason, and most people disagreed with me, at least in our chat, if I recall correctly. I sat there before the season and said, Denny Avdia is a better player than Jeremy Grant. I said that confidently, and it was a hot take at the time. Denny struggled the first 10 games of the season. What did I say? I said, he's in a new situation. Have some patience. He's a really, really good player, and soon you guys are going to see. And now he's putting up 30-point triple-doubles. Right? I sat there. I loved the move. I loved the trade, and I sat there and hyped it up, even when it was a hot take. I sat there and defended it when he had an awful first 10 games. Right? So I will... you guys will know if we like the trade. It's not like, oh, any move they make is going to be bad. Otherwise, I would have sat there and said, why are you trading 2 picks for Denny Avdia? But no, I hyped it up. I actually really like the move. The problem is, like, could you win a championship with 10 Denny Avdias? No, you probably need a star that's a little bit better than Denny Avdia. Right? So it changes the calculus in terms of what you need going into this offseason. You have more good role players than you did last offseason. So you get diminishing returns on good role players. At some point you need a star. At some point you need somebody that can carry your team at the highest possible level in the playoffs. So guys that aren't that player, the more you collect, they have diminishing returns. And I just don't think there's a Denny trade out there for them this offseason like that. Like Grant and the 10th pick for, I don't know, Cam Johnson. Well, it doesn't make sense because the Nets have 1 million picks and like 4 first-round picks, so they're not going to do it. But let's say it's that type of player.
Yeah.
No. That's bad. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't know. That's the thing is everybody's like, last year people didn't know about the Denny trade. Seemed to work out well. Okay, sure, fine. Our entire argument is about a specific type of trade. If they don't make that specific type of trade, they make a different type of trade that actually makes more sense, then we can have a conversation about it when that happens. And I'm willing to say it's a good move, just like I did with the Denny trade. But it's a different situation this offseason where you already have a lot of good players. And it's not going to be as simple as adding a Denny. Because if you add another player like Denny, all right, you're going to bring, if you still have Grant, $32 million Jeremy Grant off the bench and one of Denny or Kamara so you can start the new guy? Or are you going to still start 3 forwards? And then what the hell are you doing with your guards? Is it a player at the center position? And then it's like, why did you have Klingon maybe number 1 on your board last year and draft him to be your starting center just to trade for another center? Meanwhile, you're paying DeAndre Ayton a max freaking contract and still have Robert Williams for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, I think any possible trade they do outside of a great value get for a legitimate star is going to bring some legitimate questions about the depth chart and who their guys are moving forward and who the hell do they start next year? And what is their payroll? Like, any move is going to bring about multiple questions because there's going to be stuff that doesn't match up. If you went out and got another Denny, then it's like, all right, you're bringing Kamara off the bench and you're paying Jeremy, if you don't trade Jeremy Grant, you're paying him $32 million to come off the bench. Why is he still on the team? Whereas Denny fit in very well into what the Blazers had going on at the start of the year. When they made the Denny trade, we thought that they were going to trade Grant, and it was like, perfect. You got your starting forward for the future to replace Grant. Now you can trade Grant and cash in on whatever value he has, and then we have Kamara and Denny moving forward. And then if we get a Cooper Flagg, all right, then you bring Kamara off the bench because Cooper Flagg is probably going to be a top 10 player superstar someday, right? But short of that guy, all right, we're fine starting Denny and Kamara long term. That's why the Denny trade made so much sense. But then they didn't trade Grant. And I was like, what, you're going to trade for, like if you trade for Lauri Markkanen, you're going to start him over Kamara? You're going to start him over Denny? You're going to start Kamara at the 2 and never start Scoot and Sharp ever? Like, what are you going to do? That's why this offseason is fascinating.
So, let's just, like, I'd love to hear someone in chat bring up a name. Who, like, let's just say it's completely unrealistic. Like, don't say Wemby or anything like that. But, like, who's, like, a Denny-type player, like a youngish player on a really good contract or maybe on a rookie deal still that would even, like, if we made that trade for him out of the blue, would be like, wow, that's a Denny-type move, then that's really good. Alex, shut up, man. Tari Eason?
I don't. So what, you're going to bring Tari, you're going to trade. So what are you trading for him? Because he doesn't make much, so you're not going to trade Grant, so you're still going to have Grant. So you're going to have Avdia, Kamara, Grant, and Tari Eason as your forwards. And then I'd probably bring Tari Eason off the bench. So why are you trying so hard to prioritize Tari Eason? When he's also not really the type of player they need. He's more defensive, and this team needs more help on the offensive side of the ball. Right?
Yeah. I was just trade Murphy, but he's He's like, I think, made that jump into like what Denny's doing this year at B.
I don't know. Like, they are not. I saw something statistically. Like, they are not any better with him on the floor as of late. Which could be noise, but
he's out for the year. But
I mean, like, before he got hurt.
I mean, they suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I fully buy the jump, but it's probably going to cost a lot to get him. There's a good chance you're buying high on him. And if you're not, okay, cool, but you're going to have to give up a lot for him. Do we think Trey Murphy is ever going to be the number one player on a contending team? Do we even think he's ever going to be a number two player on a contending team?
Yeah, Jalen Johnson would be that, but I think, once again, he probably broke out a year or two. Yeah. Like, maybe if you traded for him last year, too.
But then it's like, if you traded for him last year, is he getting enough opportunity to have the breakout he had this year?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a problem. Now, he played 34 minutes last year, averaged 16, 9, and 3.5 assists. So, like, yeah, really good. But also, Denny averaged kind of similar numbers and was being brought off the bench at one point this year. So, it's like, I think one of those guys wins out and one of those guys didn't if you traded for Jalen Johnson too, a year early. And it might be Jalen Johnson where, okay, yeah, it'd be looking really good, but Denny wouldn't be having these types of games then. Denny would not have elevated his status to this team. Kuminga, no.
He's a free agent, isn't he?
He's a free agent, and also he's not, like, we need shooting at some point on this team. Also, Kuminga does not create for others at all. He attacks downhill, gets to the rim, or dies trying. Like, he's not a passer. I just don't see him ever being a top 2 creator on a contender. Like, that's the thing. It has to be somebody that at least is going to be a top 2 creator on a contender. Are any of you guys fans of Michael Porter Jr.? No. No. I call him Michael Porter Trash Can. Yep.
Question for you.
Yeah.
The money doesn't really work, but if you could trade Grant and Ayton straight up for Michael Porter Jr., would you?
No. No.
No?
Why?
I don't know.
Why? I mean, maybe, like, if you immediately flipped him, sure. Sure, yeah. If you could have flipped him for
shooting.
Bro, I mean, yeah, let's see how he looks without the greatest player in the game and the best passing center ever. Oh, no, we're getting Sabonis, too, so we got our Walmart Jokic and our Walmart. I don't know who Michael Porter Trash Can is a Walmart version of, but
that's the NBA champion Michael Porter Trash Can to you.
Got carried by Jokic. Doesn't count.
Walmart Klay Thompson.
Would you trade Robert Williams III for Klay Thompson?
I'm probably hoping I get some second round picks or something, at least.
Like, let's say KD to the Mavs, right?
Yeah.
Contracts going back to Phoenix, but both teams need to take back less salary, and the way to do that is trade Robert Williams to Phoenix because they need some center depth and take on Klay Thompson who makes 3. I was looking at a trade like this last night.
Yeah.
Like, there's your shooting and vet presence, and he's from here. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something like that, all right, cool. You know, I'm fine with that because you get some shooting, you get a vet presence, right? For one of your 10 centers. Like, if you get creative that way, sure. But
I don't think Brendan says if Klay Thompson came to Portland and watched a single game until if he's like a bench shooter, like what is yeah.
Compared to a injured big?
Okay, we're not guys. Oh man.
I think Clay would be fine off the bench here. I think at the very least he's going to space the floor. He's going to give Scoot Sharp more room to operate, Denny more room to operate. I think that's a good thing.
Also, like, you can make minor moves, guys. It's okay. Not every trade has
I
to
know.
be
Yeah.
like the solution to all our problems. Like,
Yeah.
it's part of a solution just to get a shooter and a vet on the bench. Like,
Yep. Yeah. I don't understand the hate for that. Like, we got 3 centers, 4 centers if you count Duop, 5 centers if you count Jabari. Like, oh no, we got a shooter. One of the greatest shooters ever. For our center who's always hurt. And is hurt again. When the Magic get worked in the playoffs and become more inclined to grab Simons, what do we want from it? One of their first round picks from this year. And I guess Cole Anthony and whatever filler salary, Gary Harris. Like, hopefully it's their own pick this year. That would be pretty nice to have. If the Bucks blow it up, would you trade for Giannis? That's the most realistic superstar to get because we have control of their picks 2028 through 2030 down the line. But like at that point, you might as well just try and find a way to get Dame. 2. Get Dame back. Like if you could find a way to have Dame, Kamara, Avdia, Giannis, and Klingon, would that be a contender next year, Eric?
yeah.
Like,
I think that's a better version of this year's Bucks. Yeah.
yeah, like let's say they wanted, Simons and one of Scoot and Sharp and all their picks back and like one of ours, 2 of ours, I don't know, however many we can trade, whatever. And our lottery pick this year, I don't know. Like, you really want to make the playoffs again? All right, you might as well be aggressive and actually build a contender. Like, let's just say Giannis wanted out and they were ready to trade Dame and they want to control their future picks. We got some young players. Like, all right, that's interesting. That's interesting. The shooting might be a little rough, but can't listen to this Lillard crap. I'm out. Goodbye. Don't let the door hit you. John Wall. Yeah, there you go. Who's going to be the Denny trade, though? That's the thing. So, for the people that were saying, where's Gregory Dundon? Because you say, they pulled off the Denny trade last year. Nobody heard about it before. Okay, well, like, dream about who the Denny target is. Because what we would have said about Denny this time last year is, like, I don't think they trade him. He would be really good to have, though, in a really good part of our core. But I highly, highly doubt they trade him.
Yeah, excellent pickup. How are we getting him?
Yeah. So, like, if we say that about a player, all right, maybe that is this year's Denny. But, like, give us a name. Who then? Who's that guy then? Javon's funny. You're getting him worked up, Javon. Everyone thought Washington was going to trade him, just not trade him to Portland. Not everyone thought that at all.
No one thought Washington was going to trade him. Why would Washington trade a 23-year-old on a 4-year, $46 million contract?
Who just broke out for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're going to try to tank, but like
Naz Reid is a free agent. And everything in Minnesota is like they want to bring him back. And he's not as good as Denny. He's more established as like what he is. I would like Naz Reid a lot, but he's a free agent. So how are you getting him?
Oh wow! If only we cleared out salary and had a big contract space available.
Yeah. But like the Timberwolves traded Cat partly to keep Naz Reid.
Yeah.
Like everything is like they will do whatever it takes to bring back Naz Reid. Gregory Dundon says, I don't have a name. I could think about that. All my point was a year ago in any Blazer sports talk, nobody thought Denny would be a Blazer. So all I said was another could be coming. Hope it does. Well, like, you can't even think of a player like Denny last year. That's kind of the point, is you're also expecting lightning to strike twice to justify things. Give me a night. All right, come back Thursday. I'm expecting a name. You can come up with 10 names if you want to. And we can talk about all of them. We can talk about all of them.
Let's have a list.
Yeah, like, and if you come up with a Denny type, I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit, and then I'll say, all right, when we don't trade for him, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome is also a free agent. Also, he's going to be our fourth guard or our second guard, and we're never going to play Scoot more than 25 minutes a game. Ty Jerome was great this year. He should be a starting point guard for a team next year. You know who's like the closest thing to Denny? This might sound insane. Because it's like they aren't going to trade him for anything we have. You know who this, like, I think the closest thing to Denny is potentially for us would be, do you have a guess? Were you about to say a guess?
No.
Austin Reeves. But it would, like,
He's too good.
He's too good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, Reeves is brought up in chat.
Yeah. Like, I've always been an Austin Reeves fan. When he's playing without Luka and LeBron, he's like a bona fide star. He's 26-5 per 36 this year. I mean, he played 35 minutes a game, so he was, basically 26-5. He averaged 19.9 points per game this year. Austin Reeves is better than Anthony Simons. He was undrafted, though. We could have freaking bat him. I was kind of begging them to get Austin Reeves. People would have roasted like another guard, but I had a late first-round grade on Austin Reeves.
Well, they say he...
Yeah, I told him not to draft him. Yeah. Of course, the Lakers won. Quentin Grimes.
There's another player we probably could have had.
I mean, he did just break out for them. That's the problem with all these names, is like it was so surprising they traded Denny, and it was not really logical. It was... But the thing is, the Wizards were going into rebuild mode. The Sixers are going to try and win next year. So the thing is the Wizards valued a couple picks and just clearing the deck even more. So that's why they got rid of Avdia. The Sixers aren't going to view like, oh, we should clear the deck by clearing Quentin Grimes, you know? Because they're going to try and win next year. So I think in order to find a Denny trade, you have to find a team that is rebuilding, that wants to clear the deck, so is just willing to get rid of a player that, like, logically doesn't seem to make much sense for them to get rid of, because that's exactly what the Denny situation was. Because Quentin Grimes makes sense. Oh, he's a restricted free agent, by the way. Yeah, another free agent. You know, Quentin Grimes is kind of that similar type of player, but he's on a winning team. That's the problem.
Question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you got presented this opportunity, you The 76ers would trade Grimes for Jeremy Grant, but you have to give Grimes Jeremy Grant's contract to make it work. Would you rather have Grimes at that same price? Would you give him 30 million here just to get off Jeremy?
Give Grimes 30 million to get off Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grimes on a $30 million a year contract is better than Jeremy Grant on a $30 million a year contract. So, yeah, sure.
I could see them doing that, actually.
Eric Olson says Jabari Smith Jr. I mean, I just don't think Jabari Smith Jr. is that good. He doesn't create shots like Denny.
Jabari is more in the category of rookie deal player that hasn't necessarily panned out yet that you'd be taking a chance could. Whereas Denny was like, oh, he broke out and is now thought of as a really good player or a good player, you know?
Yeah. But, like, also, I think Denny coming into the league as a rookie had more juice off the dribble than Jabari Smith does right now. I just feel like getting Jabari Smith would be like, oh, yay, another guy who's going to be an above-average NBA player. I would not be a big fan of a Jabari Smith pickup.
Well, it depends on if it's
like if it's super cheap, fine, you got your best.
Or if it's part of like a Jeremy Grant trade to them or a Robert Williams.
Yeah, but like they're not trading for Jeremy Grant and they're not giving up him for Robert Williams. So, I mean, yeah, if Cronin pulls a rabbit out of his hat and flips a Robert Williams for Jabari Smith, sure, yeah, yay. But Cam Thomas, God, no. No, man. No. Cam Whitmore, I've soured on Cam Whitmore. I just don't know about his like b-ball IQ stuff. Like I don't know. I used to be on board the Cam Whitmore train. I'm not anymore.
A player that's hasn't broken out yet that you'd be
taking a flyer on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want to take flyers on players at the end of your roster instead of Chris Murray, sure, absolutely. That's fine. But, like, Denny already broke out and proved he was a really good starter when the Blazers traded for him. So, like, that's the thing with all these names is none of these guys are that. It's just all these names are, like, taking flyers. Jarris Walker, yeah, that's taking another flyer. Peyton Watson, I just don't – he's, like, a worse version of Kamara, so – I don't really see the point. Nikola Topic, that's another flyer. And, yeah. Jaime Jaquez.
So terrible this year.
If anything, he's the opposite of Denny because he regressed this year and proved that he was not a starting caliber player this year. He was really bad.
Also, he's on the Heat, so automatically disqualified.
Yeah. Yeah, Jaime Jaquez was brutal this year. He's like Denny's age.
Matt, Jaren Jackson Jr. is like a all-NBA type player. Like, it's not.
I would probably rather have Jaren Jackson Jr. than Sabonis. But, like,
I mean, obviously he's better defensively, but
he might be better offensively. Probably not. Sabonis' passing is special, but Jaren Jackson Jr. per 36, 27.7 boards, 2.5 assists, 50% from the field, 38% from three this year. Like,
also,
all right, you bring him in, he's your number one, you play him 35 minutes, and he might get you like 26 a game, at least. So,
also I see a lot of forwards, like power forwards specifically, being mentioned. It's like, well, we're going to give up more assets for another player that plays the same position as Denny, like literally. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the point. Is like you have Denny, you have Kamara as your forwards, so. it's like it either makes sense to take a flyer on somebody who can get some minutes off the bench, or I try and trade for somebody who's like borderline star at least, while trying to retain enough assets to make another big meaningful move down the line. Corey Kispert, I mean, shooter off the bench, yeah, but he's not a creator like Denny, or a defender like Denny, or a passer like Denny. Aldama could be interesting for sure, but he comes in clearly as the third best forward. Like, Denny came in and I was like, he's the best forward on this team. He might be the best player on this team. You know? That's the difference between Denny and a lot of these names.
Because those we're always going to have potential overlap because all our players are right now are decent. But that's the problem. That's why it doesn't necessarily make sense to trade for any of these guys that we're mentioning, right? Whereas you say Denny, and like if you told me last offseason, before the offseason started, that we were going to trade the 14th pick and one of our future 2029 picks for someone, like Denny's one of the few guys I would be like, okay, I kind of see it. That kind of makes sense. Like everyone else is either too old, didn't fit the timeline, or we probably would have had to give up more than that for them. But like I could see the vision with Denny, like great contract, still fits age-wise, showed he could maybe kind of take over as the leader of a team.
His combination of skills are extremely hard to find.
Right. Good defender, too. Good size, all that stuff. So, like, those things made sense. Like, okay, I can justify giving up those picks for. Pretty much every name we talked about here, it's like, what would be the point of giving up picks or making a Denny-type trade if that's the guy we're getting? So, for me, it's like, that's why I don't see a Denny-type trade again this offseason.
Yeah. So Aeromancer brings up a really good name that is maybe the closest type of player situationally. Kobe White, right?
Yeah, it was brought up earlier too. Yeah.
But the difference is it's really easy to find a guard that is the Kobe White archetype. It's really hard to find a forward that's the Denny Avdija archetype. And we already literally have Kobe White and Anthony Simons, who we were talking about like getting rid of. So I don't really understand. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
Look how much the Knicks had to give up for Mikal last offseason too. Like,
and like we can't get anything for Simons, but Simons, you can make the argument, is just as good as Kobe White, right? So, I think situationally, it's very similar. And like team that might look to clear the deck with him because they have, Giddey, and he's playing well, and he's kind of like a point.
Giddey is a restricted free agent too, isn't he?
Yeah. Kobe makes $12 million though. I mean, you're gonna be able to get him for what you trade Ant for. Otherwise, it's like you're just trading away assets just to shed $13 million when you're already paying Ayton and Grant $65 million. So like, why are you trading assets to shed $12 million when you're still gonna be over the cap? And the thing is, next year he's literally an expiring, so it's going to go up the year after. So you're giving up assets to go from Ant to Kobe White to open up an MLE slot when you should already have it open because you shouldn't be paying Matisse Thybulle $11 million. Like, literally, if you just didn't match on Matisse Thybulle, you'd have an MLE slot. So I think that's a really bad idea.
Also, Kobe White, worse shooter on less volume than Anthony. So, not this year. This year it's pretty close, but
last
career-wise, yeah.
Last year, for his career, he's 1% lower.
I'm just saying, like, we need more shooting, not
Yeah, I mean
same.
this year he's shooting 9 a game. Like it's pretty comparable, I think. But yeah, no, it's and Simons is shooting 8.5. Yeah, volume's pretty equal, percentage pretty equal this year. So, but yeah, it's just what's the point? What's the point? Like, so you're still gonna bring Scoot and Sharp off the bench? You're still not gonna fully buy into that? You know? McDermott and Levine, Johnny.
McDermott is a free agent. Quit including him in trades every freaking stream.
He wants
dude.
McDermott, man.
Just signed a Doug McDermott type. Ugh.
Yeah, you can probably sign him to a minimum, so. No chance the Thunder would trade Wiggins. I mean, Aaron Wiggins would be nice, but would he be a starter on this team?
And what would the Thunder want?
Yeah, the Thunder are the best team in the league. They're the opposite of the Wizards. Somebody already said this, but Max Christie. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing.
It's not a bad one.
It's not a bad one, but here's the thing, right? It's like if you bring in a forward, it's like, all right, you already got Denny and Kamara. If you bring in a guard, it's like, all right, like Christie, what, you're going to start him at the 2 ahead of Sharp? You know what I mean? Here's the thing with Denny. He slot into the young core as a starting forward next to Kamara, next to Klingon, next to Sharp, and next to Scoot, right? But if you take out the Denny trade, you have your starting point guard, shooting guard, center, and one of your starting forwards, and you have a hole that you need to fill with your young core. Denny filled that hole, okay? Now you have those 5 guys filled, and if you're going to make a trade for somebody, they need to be really, really good to justify making a trade for them compared to just rolling with your young core for now, right? So that's the problem with like a Max Christie is, all right, so you're going to trade 2 first-round picks to trade for him just to keep Sharp on the bench going into a contract year? You know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense. That's the thing. You filled out your 5-man lineup, your 5-man core, right? You filled out that starting lineup, so now it's either you go big, but that can be very, very dangerous. Like, I think that's low. I think that's high risk, low reward in most scenarios, maybe all scenarios. Or you just take a flyer on a guy off the bench. So that's the thing with, there could be another Denny trade. The Denny trade was special because amazing contract, skill set is really hard to find, immediately plugged in and filled the 5th and final hole of a starting lineup for the young core that you're going to need to probably improve upon one day. But if you're just talking about really good prospects and good NBA players, you have your 5-man core. It filled that final hole. So you're no longer looking to fill that hole with the Denny type. That's the difference.
You're looking for players better than those 5.
Yeah.
You're either a star or you add cheap depth pieces that have potential to maybe push those guys eventually, but you don't trade legit assets just to get a backup forward or something. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Aeromancer says your criteria have immediately disqualified literally every other player, Tori. He's so close to getting it, Eric.
Yeah.
Like, that's the point. That is the point. Because when you brought in Denny, it wasn't like, so you're going to bring Kamara or Sharp off the bench? But if you brought in another Denny, that's literally the question.
Miles Martin asks, is the true elephant in the room that Klingon is bound to be a backup center and the center spot is our greatest area of need? What? No, that's not what anyone's saying.
Are you not satisfied with Klingon's rookie year? That's my question. Klingon today looked really good. He's had some really good games. Plus 29, best on the team, 11 points, 5 assists. 7 boards. Hit a 3.
Here come all the Klingon haters.
Showed the total package. The total package.
Matt Cardell, you like defense, but you hate Klingon. I don't get
it. He likes players that look
like your favorite player.
He likes players that are, chase steals and look like they're supposed to be good defensively, like a DeAndre Ayton. I like defense outside of the paint too, brother. My guy. Here's the thing with a guy like Klingon, okay? He himself might not be the best defender outside the paint, but he allows literally every other player on his team to be more aggressive on the perimeter and chase guys off the perimeter and clamp up the perimeter, because if they get beat being too aggressive, he's there in the paint to clean up the mess. That's the thing with here's the next level of basketball analysis for some of you, okay? If this, then this, okay? Sequential. If a guy like Anthony, he's a really good shooter, really good scorer, if he's being locked up and a bunch of attention is given to him, then that opens up things for other players, right? Instead of just sitting here like, oh, Ant did nothing this game. See, he's worthless. He didn't help at all. No, he opened up things for other players, and you had the best defender guarding Ant, so that means you had a worse defender on, say, Shaedon Sharpe, and made it easier for Shaedon Sharpe. Right? If you have a guy like Donovan Klingon, then it allows everybody else to play more aggressive on the perimeter and really, be aggressive on the perimeter, run guys off the line, and really clamp up the perimeter, because you have a really good rim protector to clean up the mess when those guys get beat.
So Miles Martin says, well, I'm confused because we need to add talent, but you guys seem married to our starters at 1 through 4. Miles, I feel like people don't listen to anything we say once they hear something they don't agree with or something.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very simple. If you do small trades to add depth, that's fine. If you make a big trade for someone better than any of our current 5 starters, that would be okay too, if that guy takes you over the top. If you trade for someone like Lauri Markkanen at the 4, and he's slightly better than Denny, or like whatever, like I'm not trying to say he is or isn't, but let's just say he is slightly better than Denny, and you gave up a crap ton of pieces that it would take to trade with Danny Ainge and all that stuff, we're not that much better. So yes, it might be a slight upgrade for that, but it's not worth this team in this current situation doing that. So how can you can add veterans to add the things you need. You can take chances on draft picks, young players via trade that haven't broke out yet, and hope that one of those guys breaks out and turns into the next Quentin Grimes or someone that could push one of your starting core. But you still have the issue of you need your star, and that's exactly why Tori and I are frustrated with not tanking this season as much, because Cooper Flagg would have been that way to do everything, right? Like it's just like, and same with the 2026 draft might have 3 or 4 of those guys that you could say that about. So like, you have to add talent, yes, but giving up assets in a rebuild just to add talent isn't necessarily smart unless it's building towards contention.
And it would be smarter if we had more assets where you wouldn't be almost completely emptying the cupboard to get a guy like Lauri Markkanen. That is also the problem with this rebuild, is they did not accumulate enough draft capital to be able to make multiple moves for high-level starters to build a contender. If they make a move for a high-level starter, they are at a deficit in terms of their draft capital. you're basically all but emptying the cupboard if you're going to make a trade for a Sabonis or a Lowry. So you're kind of locking in that roster. And if that roster is not good enough to contend one day, then you are locking yourself into being a playoff team that's not good enough to contend. And we're right back to square one where we were with Damian Lillard, because Domantas Sabonis can't be the number one player on a contending team. Lauri Markkanen cannot be the number one player on a contending team. So if you're emptying the cupboard for them, how do you improve the team much more beyond that? And we're talking about a team that's not good enough to get a top 4 seed. So that's the point. You got to be strategic. This organization has to be strategic. They have to be even more strategic because they don't have the margin for error with their draft capital. They have to fully maximize their draft capital. And trading it for Lauri Markkanen is not maximizing our draft capital in terms of what this team needs, which is a number one player that can lead a team to a ring or give a team a chance at getting a ring. At least if that's the goal, which that's my goal. So that's our point. And you can apply that to more than just Lauri and Sabonis. You can apply that to freaking Trae Young. You can apply that to LaMelo Ball. What is Denny then? What do you mean, what is Denny then? I don't think Denny... I love Denny. I've been praising Denny all stream. I don't think Denny will be a good enough number one player on a true contender, but I would love for him to prove me wrong. I would love for him to become a 25-9-5 guy. And maybe he does have that in him. But that's the thing, is if you lock yourself into that roster, you're hoping for a miraculous 100 percentile outcome for a guy like Denny or for a guy like Sharp or for a guy like Scoot, which the best case scenario is never the most likely scenario. You shouldn't bank on the best case scenario happening for the development of your young players. You need to be able to, if Denny becomes a fringe star, you need to be able to find a way to get somebody who is the number one player on a contender. That should be the plan. You should not be planning on Denny being the number one player on a contender. If he does become it, great. Awesome. That solves a lot of problems. Okay? And I'm rooting for him. But it's more likely that he does not. So in that case, what are you planning for? If that's the case. How are you planning to work around that? How are you planning to get the number one player on a contender? A guy that can lead a team to a championship.
My guy, we like Denny. We've done nothing but praise him the entire season. Denny is special though, man. Trust. Oh, okay, we agree. He is. Yeah. He's very good. Yeah.
Guess what? There's a lot of nuance and middle ground, and there's only a handful of superstars in the league for a reason. It's really hard to become one. It doesn't mean that he's not special.
You say he can handle the best perimeter defenders in the league, like OG and Anunoby last game. My guy, we scored 93 points in a must-win game. Like, yeah. He's playing well, but it's not.
Also, let me see him play like this for an entire season. Hopefully next season he will. That's almost why, like, I wouldn't even want a Sabonis. Right? Go all in on that. Like, you might as well just have Denny be the number one going into next season and retain your draft capital and just see what that looks like with Denny, Scoot, and Sharp starting. And truly figure out what you have there long term.
Can we please let Denny make an all-star game before we anoint him as a superstar? Like, Come on, guys. Like, I hope that happens. I hope he's an all-star moving forward. But, like, he hasn't even made an all-star game yet. Like, we cannot have a legit conversation that we found our superstar, and we just need to keep building on this.
Can we let him average 17 points per game in a season first before we start having that conversation? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little too early. In March, he's playing like a true star, but it's just March. Okay? Can you be that guy all the time for an entire season? Maybe. I think it's very possible. But before that happens, you shouldn't necessarily just completely bank on that happening because it's a really hard step to take, even for a player that is really, really good.
Got us out here having to like go against our guy Denny, man. That's what this is involved into.
I mean, yeah. Like, there are people that are super high on Denny, even higher than I am. And I'm very high on Denny. But, yeah, I mean, he's averaging 20 to 21 in the New Year. Guess what? That doesn't make you even an all-star, though. There's like 60-ish players averaging that many points. So he's just doing it for half a season. Oh, okay, there's still another step for him to take that I don't know if he'll take or not. I think he could, for sure. So it's not to necessarily limit him or say that he can't. It's not to be down on him. It's just, it's not for certain at all. And even if he does take a step to being a star, that doesn't mean he's the number one player on a contender. Yeah.
Miles said earlier, so why are we so committed to taking or trading if the conclusion is so we're just going to give up on Scooter Shaden? What? Who said that? Like, why? Who's giving up on those guys?
I don't know. I don't know what Miles is listening to. Maybe he's commenting and maybe he's listening to a different podcast and thinks he's listening to us and is commenting in our chat. I don't know. That's my guess.
Can we see if our ethical tanking today get us a higher pick in tankathon?
Oh, God, I don't even want to do a tankathon, man. Yay, we get to see San Antonio move up again. We're now a game and a half behind them. And we're going to try really hard to beat them. So, you know, that's great. It's very meaningful. Oh, Big Eric. Whoops.
Ah. Sorry, everyone.
Where's the... Oh, where's it at? Here we go. Nope, that's not it. There it is. All right. We are a game away from Chicago. Miami's won 5 in a row. Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
I feel like just 3 days ago it was saying they were 1-9 in their last 10. Although, yeah, they beat the Warriors, and I don't know, they're playing better. So good for them. Good for them. But, yeah. All right, let's just simulate it and watch San Antonio move up, improve our point.
They're going to be like 11th.
Dallas is at 14. At 13, we have Atlanta via Sacramento. At 12, we have Miami. So Houston via Phoenix moves up into the top 4. And at 11, we have the Chicago Bulls. And at 10, we have your Portland Trail Blazers. At 9, we have the San Antonio Spurs. At least they didn't move up. At 8, we have Toronto. At 7, we have Brooklyn. At 6, we have Philadelphia. And at 5, we have New Orleans. So everybody moves down a spot. And Houston via Phoenix jumps into the top 4. At 4, we have Washington. At 3, we have Houston via Phoenix. At 2, we have Charlotte. And at 1, we have the Utah Jazz. So Flagg, Harper, they trade LaMelo, and I think Houston might go Edgecombe there.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, they already got a man, Reed Shepherd.
Yeah, but they already got Jabari Smith and Tari Eason.
Yeah, but maybe they move off of one of those guys.
Maybe they move off one of the guys. Well, they're not going to move off a men. But men can play like 4 positions.
True.
So you can move a man around.
We got Green, too.
A man in Edgecombe in transition, bro. The defense with those two. I would take Edgecombe if I'm Houston. for sure. For sure.
And are you being serious right now?
What? Me?
Baton and Jet.
Oh.
What are your thoughts on Colin on Duke? My guy,
Hey, he might not have been here, all right? If he hasn't been here, it's a very legitimate question.
But we talk about him like
yeah, but
every
he might
stream
not have
being a
been
Blazer.
here. This might be his first time, or he might just keep missing the part where we talk about how we like Knipple for the Blazers if they don't move up.
And
I'm
now
sure he hasn't heard us. That's why he's asking. I'm sure he hasn't heard us talk about it.
I know, but like it's been.
He says, "I wasn't here, bro." LMAO.
I-
We like Con. We like Con for the Blazers. They need shooting. He's a really good fit. Secondary playmaker. I think defensively he might not be good at guarding a single position, but I think he could adequately guard 3 to 4 positions, which doesn't sound necessarily super enticing, but I think for like a shooter that can do a little bit off the dribble, I think that's better. He's a smart player too, strong. I think he's a really, really good fit with this young core. So part of the reason here's the thing, when you were solo streaming and you were talking about like moving up and people talking like, oh, it's still such a small chance at Flagg, it doesn't matter, bro. Having the 8th pick instead of the 10th pick, I think at the 8th pick you have like a 60% chance of getting Colin Knipple. 65% chance, I don't know, maybe 60 maybe 50 to 60% chance of getting Colin Knipple at 8. I don't know. He might go earlier. But I think at 10, you have about a 5% chance of getting him.
Yeah, we probably. That's one of the reasons why it sucks we're winning. We've played ourselves out of that kind of.
Yeah.
We talked about trading for Austin Reeves. That's like kind of similar archetype, right? A little bit.
Yeah. Reeves was a lot shiftier, though. And, like, deceleration was elite. A little craftier. But
He was older, though. Had a couple years to. There was a couple plays where Knipple slowed down and used his body like really well to get off a shot last game, and
yeah, just have him watch Luka film.
yeah,
Knipple could be a high floor, sneaky ceiling guy. That is a great fit. So that's what I want for the Blazers if they don't move up. I mean, at 10, you get one of Queen Newell, Maluach. Maluach is going to be really good, man. I think Maluach, outside of Flagg, might be the safest good starter pick in the draft outside of Cooper Flagg. Like, I would be shocked if Maluach isn't at least a good starter, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's solid.
7'2", moves that well and defends that well. Yeah. Like, how is he not a good starter?
Some okay switchability in the.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's going to be a really, really good defender that rebounds, can run the floor, finishes. Like, he's at least Jared Allen. You know what I mean? Is how I feel about him. 7'2".
Also, Adon, we have special streams where, like, it'll be a mock draft night or a big board night. So we had our mock draft not yesterday, but a week ago on Monday. So, like, we go in depth on prospects in those usually. So, if you're just like naming a bunch of prospects and want our thoughts on them, you could probably be easier to go find one of those where we talk about.
Yeah, go to our Discord. We have a schedule that goes over when we go over our big boards, which games, and then you can find the stream. But name me the difference between Mo Bamba and Maluach. Maluach is a smarter defender, a much smarter defender, and he's bigger, and he moves better. Like, I don't think there's much similarities between Mo Bamba and Maluach.
Mo Bamba was like everything was projection with the size and length and athletic ability, and it
Yeah.
never transpired. Whereas Malawach is actually like doing it on the court as a freshman. So
Yep. Oh God, Matt. Matt drives me crazy, man. I don't even necessarily disagree with that. It's just that he said it.
yeah,
Do we want Asa Newell at all? I don't know, man.
at first in there like 10 or 11, and like Malawach and Knipple and stuff were off the board. I wouldn't mind Newell.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't be thrilled. It'd just kind of be like, oh, yay, another role player.
You think Newell looks 6'4", Matt? I think he looks like 6'9". He's not center size, but
Con. No, Con's bigger than 6'4".
oh. Yeah, I don't know.
I think Con's 6'6". I think Trey Johnson is like 6'4.5". I think Edgecombe is 6'3". I think Bailey's like 6'9". Yeah. Jace Richardson is 5'11". No, just kidding. Look at Alex Condon at 26, Eric.
Moving on up.
Look at Lendeborg at 25. You were early on Lendeborg. I was early on Condon. Am I early on Nick Clifford if he ends up being a top 15 pick?
No, not really. He was from last draft, and a lot of people were high on him going into this year.
Not lottery level high on him, though.
Not lottery, but mid to late first, I think. If he goes higher than 15, I'll say okay.
Carter Bryant gets drafted in the top 22-ish, I feel like. That's one was a little early on. God, there's somebody else.
Cam, Aramis says, why is Cam fallen? He hasn't fallen. It's just a lot of people didn't or had him as like a late first. Not a lot of people had him super high.
Who's he talking about?
Cam Jones.
Oh, yeah. My guy Sion James, man. My guy Sion James. You want to know something? On the right team, you could talk me into
What?
Walter Clayton Jr. at the back end of the first round.
Oh, for sure.
That dude's a gamer, man. That dude just has that it factor. I don't normally analyze prospects that way, but that dude just has it, you know?
Yeah.
Just like that, just the shots he hit to help them overcome Texas Tech, like the one where he dribbles out to the 3-point line and turns and fades away because he's dribbling away from the rim and hits that three. It was like, that's an insane shot, but I'm not even surprised he made it. You almost expected him to make that. Decent athlete, too. You want the next Kobe White. There you go. I don't know if it'll be Kobe White, but yeah. That dude has that it factor. Yeah, this big board feels like a little like not up to date fully.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to the draft. Anyway. I feel like we barely talked about the actual game, but that's fine. I mean, Denny's great. Sharp looked really good. Is there anything you wanted to break down there real quick?
No, I mean, our forwards had a good game. Chris Murray did not, except he was a forward, I guess.
So he went 0 for 2 from the free throw line today. What's his free throw percentage down to? Is it below 40%? Ooh. I gotta see this. I love how the broadcast was like, he was a good shooter at Iowa, he's just due to make shots. I was like, dude, he wasn't even that good of a shooter at Iowa. What are we talking about?
Oh, there was a guy, Mike McCrae, in here earlier.
Oh God, don't talk about Mike. Don't even talk
He had
about
a
Mike.
he had a question for you though.
Oh God, no! I saw one of his comments. No, if it's the comments you're talking about, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
19 for 48 from the free throw line. Did it have to do with free throws?
Yeah.
No. Don't even give him that attention. Hell no.
I don't know.
Ask him about the 2 30-footers I had before that. Down 6. Ask him about the 2 30-footers I hit to tie the game. Anyway.
Mike, what about the 2 30-footers Corey hit before that?
I don't even know if he's still in here.
Yeah, probably not. He just came in a
He has to go sell houses tomorrow, so, got to go to bed early. Did you airball a free throw? No. Never. Would never airball a free throw. Come on now. Anyway. Yeah, we'll be live again on Thursday. We'll try and talk more about the game. That stream's also going to go live a little bit later, but the numbers have been good. You guys showed up. You guys made chat active. We appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Sorry if you wanted more analysis from the game, but I don't know. It's just ready for the Blazers to start tanking. I think this was a good conversation about where the Blazers are at, and just if you don't agree with me, I just hope you understand where I'm coming from with some of my worries and what I want from this team. So, just want this team to contend someday, man. Have a plan to contend. Don't have a plan to make the playoffs. Make the playoffs along the way on your path and your plan to contend. That's all I ask. Ownership needs to sell. Burt Cold needs to be gone. He needs to stop meddling. And I don't know. You guys know how I feel about Cronin. I don't know if he has much of a plan either. But at the end of the day, also, who knows how much of it is this freaking ownership group? It's just a mess. It's just a mess. I'll celebrate when this team is sold, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun stream.
Yep. It's
right up there with the Terry Stotts one.
Yep. Hopefully we get an owner that's set on winning. Who knows when that'll be, though? Because it sounds like the trust will take 50 years to be figured out. But what can you do? What can you do? Anyway. Anything else, Eric?
Congrats to Adam Smits on his new job. And thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate you all. Hope to see you on the stream on Thursday.
Nice. Congrats on your new job. Good job getting past Instacart, because I've done that a couple times. It's interesting. You ever see the people going around grocery stores and you can just tell they're Instacarting? Eric?
You're asking me that?
Yeah.
I see 100 of those people every day. The same.
Oh yeah, because you
every
go to
store.
Yeah. They're just with their phone and they're almost sprinting with the shopping cart. They stop and they look around and they grab something real quick and scan it, and chuck it in their cart. It's just a different, just different, Yeah. Just different. Anyway, somebody leave a like. We're at 99 likes. Thank you to Monopoman for donating to the stream earlier. We got one donation today, so that's a win. That's a win. We appreciate it. And we'll be live again on Thursday. 2 streams, one on the second channel, one on the main channel, going live a little bit after. Going live about the same time this one went live today, so. You guys talk about Stephen A. versus LeBron yet? Nope. And we're ending the stream, so have a good rest of your night. We'll catch you guys Thursday. Blazers win. They definitely aren't tanking. If you thought they were tanking, you're an April Fool. And, just a fantastic win today. Fantastic play by Denny Avdia. 32 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. Phenomenal stuff.
7 turnovers.
Look at you always being negative. I might drop a video on him tomorrow. We'll see. Anyway, we're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!